Hey Vaznosenka, welcome to week 6 of Language Arts. This week you will be looking at Einstein. If you remember that guy, kind of crazy guy. So today you're going to watch this video and read Einstein, and also do the summary notes in your notebook. Then tomorrow you'll do the article comparison activity. On Wednesday you'll watch part 2 of the video series and work on your argumented paragraph. Thursday you'll just finish your work, and Friday you'll have iReady with additional time and submit your notebook. Alright, well, let's get your notebook open. Okay, now that you have your notebook open, let's go ahead and look at those 3 things that I was just talking about together. So we're going to work on this, the summary notes, to an actual summary. We've done the summary notes before. This week we're going to learn how to transition that into an actual summary. I discussed this with some of you last week with your summary notes assessment, that it should be information that you would want to put into an actual summary. So we'll do that together today. Then tomorrow you'll do the article comparison. I'll sort of go over a little bit how to do this momentarily at the end of the video. Then on Wednesday we'll have a video where we talk about argumentative paragraphs a little bit more, how to plan for those, and then how to write them. So then you'll work on this on Wednesday and probably finish your paragraph on Thursday. Okay, so let's go ahead and get to it. Before we do anything else, you need to read How They Croaked, Albert Einstein's Massive Cranium. So go ahead and pause the video now and read that story. All right, now that you've read the story, let's look at actually the summary notes. And we're going to do that and then transition that into an actual summary. So since this is the first time you're doing the full summary, I'm going to do it with you. You might know how to summarize sort of just on its own, but the summary notes really hone in and make us focus on the specific things that we need in a summary. So that's why we answer these questions. And we're actually going to remove this part and not worry about emotionally charged words right now, because we are just looking at what we would want to put in a summary. So Albert Einstein, Massive Cranium. What is that story about? It is about Albert Einstein's death and what happened to his body. This story is a little bit interesting and different than some of the other stories in How They Croaked, because it doesn't actually talk about how he died very much. It's pretty light. It mostly talks about what happens to his body after his death. Okay, so who it's about is Einstein. And Einstein, we know, we need to write down things here that are important pieces of information that the story told us about Einstein. So Einstein is German scientist, won Nobel Peace Prize for theory of relativity. He was a pacifist, which means that he does not believe in war at all. He doesn't think that there's any time that it's appropriate to go to war. That's what pacifist means. And he was a professor in the United States. Okay? So where does all this take place? It takes place in the United States at university, off the top of my head, Princeton. Yeah, it's Princeton. So he's a professor at Princeton University in New Jersey. Okay. When does all this happen? Well, he dies on April 18th, 1955. But it also continues on into 20 years after that, because we're talking about what happens to his body after his death. So it's kind of a 20-year process. All right. So, why and how? So I'm going to start with the how. How does Albert Einstein's body get destroyed as it was? So he died from a stomach aneurysm, like an aneurysm, which is a burst blood vessel somewhere in your body, and he burst in his from his stomach up to his heart. So he dies from an aneurysm. I'm not really sure how to spell that. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not really sure how to spell aneurysm. There we go. Okay, he dies from an aneurysm, and he wanted to be cremated. Okay. But the coroner, which is the guy who examines his body, examined his brain, like he stole his brain basically, and cut it into pieces to be examined, and kept them 20 years. It was like 20 years later that he actually returned Einstein's brain to Princeton University. Why does he do this? Well, Einstein had a bigger brain than anybody else. It was bigger, and he was a genius, so they wanted to study his brain. That's basically what it is. They wanted to study his brain, okay? So when he died, he wanted to be cremated. However, Harvey, which was the guy who, the coroner, he wanted to examine his brain. It's like, this is like the greatest genius of all time. We're not just going to let his brain go into ash, like, and just burn it up. We're going to study it and find out what happened to it. And then later, his body ends up being buried. So it never actually got cremated as he wanted. Right? Okay. So knowing this is our summary notes. And, you know, this doesn't have to be exact or perfect. You might have a few details different that you wanted to add that you think are really important. Like, summary notes and summaries aren't something that there is an exact science to where you exactly have to have this information. But what you put in the summary notes is what you would tell people in your summary. So when I go to then change this information into a summary, I just want the same information. I'm not going to add any new information. I just want this information into complete sentences. So if you are missing information in your summary notes that is important in a summary, then you need to get that information there. Okay, so if you don't have your summary notes done yet, if you were following along with me, you might, but you should pause the video now and finish your summary notes. All right, now that your summary notes are done, the next page in your notebook is to, or sorry, not the next page, the bottom of this is to actually then turn all of that information into a summary. So into complete sentences. The easiest way to do this, if you've done it correctly, is to literally just copy and paste everything from your summary notes into that box, and then we'll turn it into complete sentences. So I just copied everything from here, copy, and then I pasted it here, okay? When I start my summary, I need to introduce what we're summarizing. So we're going to say Albert Einstein, Massive Cranium by Georgia Bragg is about, and then we'll go into what it's about. Is about Albert Einstein's death and what happened to his body. Okay. Then we'll say Einstein was a German scientist who won a Nobel Peace Prize for his theory of relativity. He was also a pacifist and a professor at, and this is where we're combining this here, at Princeton University. University in New Jersey. He died on April 18, 1955 from a brain aneurysm, from an aneurysm here. So do you see how I'm just kind of copying and pasting these different parts to make it a complete thought here? So he died on April 18, 1955. I'm going to take out the 20. We'll talk about that later. And he died from an aneurysm, and he wanted to be cremated. However, comma, this is where we get into the what happened. Einstein had a bigger brain than anyone else and was a genius. So, the coroner stole his brain. Cut into pieces to be examined and kept them for 20 years. The end. So, you'll see, though, that all of this information is exactly the same information that I had here. It is now just written out into complete sentences. I have to add the name of the article and the type and the author, but then I go straight into what it's about, and I rearranged a little bit so that it all made sense, but it was the exact same information. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video now and write your summary. Now that your summary is done, you are getting close to being done for the day, but tomorrow you're going to do this article comparison, so I just wanted to overview with you a little bit how to do it. There are two articles here specifically talking about Einstein's brain and what happened to it after his death. They are two articles written on similar subjects, so one of our big goals this quarter is to be able to compare informational text on the same subject, but written from different perspectives. So you're going to do that. In these boxes here, I want you to list information that is unique and specific to that article, and in the middle, put anything that is in both. So as you read them, if you hear a piece of information that they both have, that's going to go in the middle. If you see a piece of information in one of them that only that one has, it's going to go on that side, etc. You're going to do that both for pieces of information and also emotionally charged words, because those emotionally charged words give us insight into the perspective of the author and their biases. So list any information presented and emotionally charged words for that only that article has. On that side, for Einstein's brain and Einstein's brain forgotten, you're going to do the same thing, and in the middle you're going to put any information that they both share. Any information that they both share. Try to be as thorough as possible, but you don't have to list every piece of information in the entire article. You're really looking at some major similarities and some major differences. All right, and I will have a video for you again on Wednesday for part 2.